When I do the motor swap, I'm going to be doing an air pump delete and TGV delete. That is it as far as mods. I am going to send it for a tune after that, and then kind of see what's next with the car. So, first step, pull the motor. Alright, here we have the 255 out of the car. So our donor motor is a 32-bit JDM 205 single AVCS, so this is nearly identical to the motor I just pulled out other than the displacement. So this motor doesn't necessarily just drop in for a variety of reasons. So what I'm going to do here is strip this one down to long block form. I'll strip that one down to long block form. I'll show you the few differences, put it back together, and throw it in the car. We are back. We've got both the engines stripped down. In case you don't know, the manifold comes off in one piece. It's actually a lot less complicated probably than you think. So if you are doing this swap just to get your car back on the road, all you need to do at this point is remove your entire intake manifold. The only sensor that is often any different is the oil pressure sensor here. Reason being, this has a tab to connect, whereas the JDM one will actually have a little nut holding an eyelet on. The only other difference you'll notice is the crank vent. This one comes out in one, then it tees off, whereas the JDM one will come out and kind of branch out in two hoses a little bit lower. I'll show you the difference there in a sec. So I mean, at this point, you're essentially done with your USDM motor, and we'll move on to the JDM one here. Now looking at the JDM 205 all stripped down, if you're leaving your air pump stuff, all the air pump stuff is the same. All this PCV routing, this coolant line, everything is all the same. And there's the little difference. So see the one spout and the second spout, and then they go down into there. So this is similar to an 08 WRX. Whereas I'm putting this into a legacy, so there are some slight differences. So all I have to do is take this off and replace it with the domestic one, and I'm good to go. Again, here, yeah, so that's what I was saying. This one's bolted on with a little eyelet. So if you wanted, you could wire it, but really it's about, 5 seconds just to replace this sensor with your other one and keep it all factory fresh. Every other sensor on the motor can be left as is. Don't forget to go through, remove all these banjo bolts, and make sure the screens are already out of them, because yeah, that's just a good thing to do. So at this point, if I wasn't doing the air pump delete, which when you do an air pump delete, you actually leave this valve. It's a barometric sensor. It's important for the function of the engine with respect to the ECU. People do sometimes like saw them off just to get this little sensor, and they'll tuck it in somewhere with the harness, but just as well, you could remove all this hose and that and stuff, along with this guy, everything down there. You'll need block off plates, or you can make them. But I find it's easiest just to leave that right where it is. So let's say I was not doing an air pump delete. At this point, I would just put new gaskets on here and drop on my USDM intake manifold and put the motor in the car. So moving forward, I am doing TGV deletes, which I'm actually just going to use some Japanese ones that are already TGV less. And I'm also doing the air pump delete. This 205, commonly they come with like a TD04 or a TF035. I'm using the original VF46 from the Spec B onto this motor. So now I'm gonna do my deletes. When I do them, I mark all the cables that go to things that I'm gonna delete. Then what I do is bring them back as far as I can. I cut them, I cap them with watertight shrink tube, and then I tape them back into the harness to kind of give it a nice finish. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that and drop my manifold on. I'll show you the motor once it's all back together, and then we'll put it in the car. Another slight difference I should mention, the EJ20Y, EJ20X, this, let's call it an 08 plus EJ205. They come factory with a cylinder 4 cooling mod, if you want to call it that. A lot of people argue that they don't, but they really do. So I mean, this is the pipe I removed. If you want, you can plug that back in to the outermost heater core line and you've got yourself a nice little mod. We are back with the JDM motor all assembled. I got my oil sensor swapped over. I've got my TGV delete done. So this is just a factory JDM TGV delete that I took from another motor. I've cut all the wires, shrink tubed them, and taped them into the harness to keep it clean. There's my barometric sensor still in place. Got my super fancy air pump delete that's not available in stores. It's too high end. And now I'm ready to pick up the motor, put the clutch on the back. I've got my throwout bearing and stuff all set in there. Alright guys, here we are with the JDM motor installed, running, warming up, just waiting for the thermostat to open, then I can let it cool down, check the coolant. Well, I'd say that's it for this vid. I'm gonna finish my warm up here, take the car down, take it for a drive, and then it's sitting for quite a while until I get the tune done.